Hello and welcome to today's Give It to God live call hosted by Alison Larkin. I'm Sarah Hawksworth here with a bit of housekeeping today on how the call is going to run. So I'm going to introduce Ali in a few moments and she's gonna open up the call with 50 to 60 minutes of um, just talking about today's theme. And then after that, we're going to open up for 30 minutes of Q&A. During the Q&A, there's two ways you can interact. You can post your question into the Q&A box and Ali will answer it. So you post the question as just text and she'll answer it. Or Ali's preferred method is you would jump on live with your voice and you can talk to her directly with your question. If you no need to worry about your voice or your name being shown on the replay that will be posted to Ali's YouTube channel in a few days as we automatically remove names and voices from the recording. If you would like to take notes during this call, we would recommend that because the recording will not be posted for a few days. And also, if you think of any questions you would like to ask, you don't need to wait until the Q&A is open. You can post them while Ali is still talking about today's theme. As I said, the recording will be posted in a couple of days on Ali's YouTube channel, which is at Alison Larkin. And if you are watching that recording right now and you would like to join next week's call live, you will find the link to register below. I'll hand over to Ali now, and she'll start with today's theme.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Give It to God. So Sarah and I just decided to do things a bit differently this week, and I didn't turn my camera on in the beginning. And then I saw the photo for my Zoom, and I was like, well, that needs to get updated because that photo was taken at my house in Scotland, and I left Scotland in 2015. So I was looking at the photo and I was like, Ali, I think you need to update that. I will be, like Sarah said, I will be speaking for 60 minutes on today's theme, which I will tell you after we do our shared silence together. So we start every Wednesday. I almost said every Saturday. We start every Wednesday doing shared silence together for 5 to 10 minutes, just to practice sitting in silence for all of you here today that don't spend a lot of time sitting in silence inside your own body with your own thoughts and feelings, who are busy in everyday life, as lots of us are. So we spend, at the start of every week, we spend 5 to 10 minutes sitting in silence together and just hearing what comes through our bodies, witnessing our thoughts as they come in and out, not judging our thoughts, just being the silent witness of the thoughts that come in and out while we're here together. My belief and my wishes for this call is that all the people here together today bring our energies into the room, the proverbial room, the symbolic room of Zoom, and all of our energies connect together. And when I'm speaking, what I'm actually doing is channeling the subconscious thoughts of everybody that's sitting in the room, and we all come together with a shared goal of giving ourselves to God, which means giving ourselves to our highest versions of ourselves as an individual, and giving ourselves to the energy that created everything and everyone on this planet. So when I say giving it to God, I mean, first of all, I mean ourselves, then our problems, then our dreams and our desires and all of these things that we have in our heart. We are here to give them to God. This is the purpose of this call. And when we're all here together sharing in that energy, if we all connect our energies together as we do when we sit in silence, then it's a stronger offering to that highest energy that we all have access to at all times. What my wish and desire for everyone leaving the call is that they've got a stronger connection with their own inner God when they leave. I'm not asking anyone to believe that I am God's speaker and I'm here to tell you how to live and how to be. My role here is to tell you what God says through me, in order for you to be able to hear what God says through you. And your individual message is different from my individual message for the world and for the people that we love and the people in our communities. We've all got an individual message and an individual service that we all bring to the world. And this is my service, this is what I bring. And my hope and desire for you is that when you leave this call, you have a stronger connection to that energy you hold within yourself, and you can align with it more and hear it more, and therefore bring your service and your message out to the world in whichever way God is asking you to do it. So we're going to start 5 to 10 minutes of silence, as we do every week, and then I will say a short prayer, and by a prayer, I mean I'm just going to speak to God, speak to that energy that we all have inside of us, and express my intentions, desires, and wishes for the call for the next 90 minutes. Then I'll talk on today's theme, which I will tell you about after our silence and after the prayer. So if everybody could just close their eyes, make themselves comfortable. If you're sitting, just sit in the most comfortable position possible. If you are driving, please do not close your eyes. But if you are, then just, if you can, pull over. Just be by the side of the road and be in your own body. If you're watching this on catch up, please just follow us with the silence. Just have your own 5 to 10 minutes of silence. Don't be tempted to fast forward past this part. Just sit in silence for 5 to 10 minutes along with the rest of us, and be a witness to what thoughts or feelings, emotions come up through your body while you're sitting there in the void. So we just all close our eyes. If everybody on the call just closes their eyes and just gets comfortable. And all I want you to do is just be a witness to any thoughts, feelings, and emotions that arise from within you. Be a witness to any sensations that you feel within your body when you're asked to sit in silence. Be a witness to what you feel when you connect with the silence. Do you feel excitement? Do you feel peace, calm, serenity? Do you feel fear? The thoughts and feelings that are coming up, are they vibrating at a frequency of fear, or are they vibrating at a frequency of love? Are they vibrating at a frequency of excitement? Are they vibrating at a frequency of joy? Are they vibrating perhaps this week at a frequency of agitation or annoyance or frustration? Just be a witness. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to come into the silence with everyone on the call. Everyone wants to just open their eyes, come back into the room, and I'm going to tell you what I thought as soon as I closed my eyes. That I was just had a thought to myself that what if someone's coming on and it's their first week of attending the call and they've never attended it before, and they come in at the point where we're sitting in silence and they just come into the room and I'm just sitting here with my eyes closed in silence, then what would they think was happening? So maybe I don't know if we put something in the description, in the YouTube description, or like a little box when they come on. By the way, if Ali's sitting there with her eyes closed, don't worry, it's not going to be like that throughout the whole conversation. So that I was kind of making myself laugh, just imagining somebody coming in and then just being like, right, I've just joined this call, this workshop, and this woman's just sitting there with her eyes closed in silence for the first 5 minutes of the call. Would they just go back off again? Because I think I would probably do something like that. So I was like really making myself laugh there. Okay, so I'm going to set an intention in the form of a prayer. Prayer is nothing more than communicating with our highest selves, that which some people call God, that which we call God on this call. Communicating with that highest version of ourselves. Praying is chatting, talking, asking for and offering to. It's not just a one-way line where you only ask in prayer, you also offer up in prayer as well. Which took me a long time to realise. Guys, I've been swimming in the sea every day this week and my eyes are quite itchy, and it's just started happening when I got on the call. So apologies for poking my own eye while we're sitting here. My intentions for the call, it's the same intentions that I have every week. I ask the highest energy that we all carry within us to flow through all of us here on the call, flow through me as I speak to the people on the call, flow through the attendees on the call, give them the courage to ask the questions that are placed in their hearts while they're listening to my voice. Because all of us here will have questions or have thoughts or have statements or opinions that'll arise while I'm talking. Usually when someone else is talking, your brain, your energy is creating thoughts in the background. I encourage everybody here to write what they think, write what they feel, write any questions that come up. And I ask the God within us all to give everybody the courage and the wherewithal, the capacity to hear it and the courage to write it. I'm here to listen to what anyone has to say, what everyone has to say. If you're challenged by any of my thoughts or theories, if you don't understand them, if you're triggered by them, then please write in the comments and we can vibe on it and we can sift through what's coming through for you from your own direct line to God and sift through it and get maybe some actions in place or maybe some moving forward for you in your lives. So that's my intention today. It's my intention, my prayer every week is that the God within us all comes to the forefront while we're here together. So if this is your first week on the call, I'll tell you what generally happens. These calls are still pretty new to me. I still find the beginning challenging, just sitting in front of a camera and talking mostly to myself because I can't actually see anybody else's faces. I've been coaching online for 6 years, and one of my stipulations in my coaching calls when I did group coaching for a company was that I had to be able to see everybody's face while I was talking, and what I needed to see was a reaction. What I later realised was I needed to see a reaction on the faces of the people that I was talking to so that I could understand if they understood what I was saying, if they were resonating with what I was saying, if they were connecting with it. So I always had the camera on so that I could get the full 360 experience of what was happening in the room. And when I decided to do these calls in this way, I knew that the hardest, the most challenging part for me was going to be not being able to see people's faces. So I still find this part challenging. I still find catching my own eye in the screen and only seeing myself and this little 10-year-old inside of me being like, oh my, it's just you on that stage by yourself, this stage of Zoom. by yourself and everybody's looking at you and you might make a mistake, and that little 10-year-old lives inside me, and she sometimes pops her head up, more often than not when I feel tired. And we are now 3 weeks into summer vacay with my 10-year-old. It's been pretty full on. I am pretty tired and have been, in the sea pretty much every day since we got here to Malta, and we travelled to Toronto for a week, for 10 days before that. So it's been full on for me, probably since the first week in June. A lot of travelling and a lot of one-to-one time with just Francis now, which of course has been absolutely amazing and beautiful and wonderful, but tiring at the end of each day as well. So I find this part of the call challenging, and then I get into flow. Then I get overexcited, and then by the time I get to the overexcited part, we get to the Q&A, and you can submit a question and you can come on and chat to me. It's the best time to come on and chat to me because I'm going to be filled with everybody else's energy and everybody else's desires and intentions, and filled with everyone else's knowledge as well, as we all connect together here through the telepathy of God. And the answers that I bring to you, or the sifting that I will bring to you of your own personal thoughts, will not just come from me, but they'll come from everybody in the room. And that's a wonderful thing. This week's theme, I'll be honest, I've had about 5 themes running through my head for the past week. I had a chat with someone this morning where I was like, I'm finding it difficult to find an exact theme or decide on what to speak about this week because of the time that I'm spending with Francis, just one-on-one, and the days out that we're having, and the going to the beach till late and watching movies till late and all the stuff that comes with being a parent in the summer holidays. So I just decided to sit down and chat and see where I go. I don't know if I have a definite theme. I'll tell you that as soon as I closed my eyes, I heard the time has come. I don't just think it's for me, I think it's for every single person on this call. The time has come to show your true self. That's what I heard. And I think that it's everybody, if I say that's the message that I hear for you today, that God is putting in my heart for everybody on this call. The time has come to show your true self. Then what I want for everybody sitting here today and everybody watching on catch up is I want you to take that message and understand what it means for you, right? The time has come to show your true self. What does that mean for you? Who is your true self? God has put that message in my mouth for you. Sitting here today, listen to it and catch up. And why would God put that message in front of you? Why are you called here today to hear this message? The time has come to show your true self. And what aspect of your life, what first comes into your head when I say those words? What first aspect of your life comes in? Is it your true self in business, your true self in your relationship, your true self in who you are in the world? It's a message for me, for sure, which is why it came through my body. But then my job here is to sit and say the messages that I hear that come through my body and put them on the path of other people. So I'm going to start by telling you a story because I love telling stories because I'm a Celt and that's what we do. And I will tell you a story about something that happened when Sarah and I took Francis out for the day to Malta. So we're on the island of Gozo, which is, if you've never been to Malta, and so many people haven't been, and so many people when I was in Canada said to me, I don't even know where Malta is. So, like, someone said they'd never even heard of it, and I had to explain where it was in terms of the other parts of Europe. Malta is made up of 3 islands, and one of them's uninhabited, but it's absolutely beautiful to visit. Malta is the main island and Gozo is the smaller island. It's, I think, got 40,000 people on the whole island. You can drive from one side to the other in under an hour, I think, or maybe an hour and a half. And it's very small. And we made a trip to the mainland, the big island, which by the way has got 500,000 people on it and is very, very small also. But we were calling it the mainland, the big island. We made a trip there on Monday, and we had someone placed on our path, and we were also placed on this person's path. And he had a message for me and I had a message for him. And my friend said I was going to have a tattoo done. She got 2 tattoos done. I don't mind telling you that one of them is, one of our tattoos is Give It to God, which I also have tattooed on my arm. And Sarah now has tattooed on her arm as well, which is just absolutely wonderful to me and also astounding still that I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying this, but Sarah's come from an absolute disbelief in anything to do with the word God to now having Give It to God tattooed on her arm in the space of 7 months. So we went over to the mainland and said that we were going to the tattoo parlour, which we'd been to before. We were really excited about it. This was Frances' first time coming with us. We were joking that she was going to get a tattoo. She did not. She's only 10. But she was really excited because she was going to meet a tattoo artist, and she's a little artist herself and was really excited to go and see his drawings and show him her drawings. So we get in this Uber in Malta, and straight away the Uber driver leans in the back and he says, "Have you got your seatbelt on?" like that. And I was like, "Oh, it's got." And so I said, "Where are you from?" And he says, "I'm half Maltese, half Scottish." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, look, whereabouts in Scotland are you from?" And I think obviously the more I was speaking, the more I realised I was Scottish as well. So he said the name of his town, which I'd heard of but never been to. And then he said, you know, I told him where I was from. He made a joke about where I'm from. We had a laugh and a bit of banter between the only two. I said the only two Scots in the car. So he asked Sarah where she's from, and Sarah said Scunthorpe, and I commented, but no, she's a Canadian now. She lives in Canada. And immediately the guy's energy just completely changed. He's driving along, he's sitting in his car. He's just picked up these lovely people and he's taking them on a 10-minute journey. And immediately I'm in the back and Sarah's in the front, she's chatting to him, and immediately just sits up straighter and he's like, "Canada, Vancouver, I love Vancouver. I've been there 4 times." And he came to life. Like, this guy just came to life. His whole demeanor changed, his whole energy just was lifted up. And I was just sitting in the back watching him and Sarah chat about Vancouver, and he made this comment saying it's like a bigger version of Scotland. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he made some comments about how he would like to live in Vancouver, how he would like to live in Canada, and how he'd gone through the immigration process. And he made, in his flow of speech, and this is generally what happens when we get into a flow of speech and we get excited about something, or even if we feel like comfortable with someone and we get into flow, and we're not, what happens when we're growing up is we learn to become careful with our words. We learn to choose our words based on the audience the company that we're sitting in, the audience we're in front of. You would have learned this in childhood. You'd learn to choose your words in front of your parents. You would speak differently in front of your parents than you did in front of your friends and in front of your teachers in school. So you'd learn to choose what words you're using depending on whose company you're in. But when someone gets into a flow of speech, and it could be because they're overexcited, it could be because they're angry, it could be because they just feel comfortable and feel connected to something that's happening at that time. What happens is the energy is flowing through us more freely, and with less blockages and with less control over what we're saying. And I always love watching people in a flow of speech for this reason, because the things that come out of people's mouths when they're not trying to control their words or thoughts, and they're not trying to control who they are and live up to this avatar that they've created, they reveal what's really going on inside of the person, inside of the subconscious of the person. And I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested in the characters that we've created and what's underneath the characters that we've created. What's underneath the characters we've created is a more authentic version of ourselves. And that authentic version is the one that's constantly trying to come to the forefront. And that is the one that's more connected with the energy that we call God, which I will elaborate on in a minute. If you disagree with what I've said, or if you don't understand anything that I've said so far, please write in the Q&A. So this guy gets really, really excited about the fact that Sarah's living in Vancouver and he loves Vancouver, and he was telling us so much information about himself. And then he said about how he would love to live there, but he'd gone through the immigration process and it just wasn't possible. And it just piqued my interest straight away. I'm watching him from the back of the car, and I was like, well, what happened in the immigration process? So he said he'd gone for an interview. I actually thought I'd some of my drink left in my cup and I don't. Wait a minute, because I can feel myself starting to get excited, and that means that my throat will start to get dry. He'd gone through the interview process for a job, and he'd been offered the job and then realised that he wasn't going to be paid for it. It was apparently like some kind of voluntary programme in the first instance. He would eventually get paid for it, but not in the first instance. And he was like, so I had to just not, I couldn't keep going with it because, and it was this sentence that really, really touched something inside of me, where he said, because you can't just go to Canada and work in a factory or something like that. And I was just watching him from the back seat and I was like, well, he's just said that like it's a fact, like it is 100% truth. Like that's like there's it's an absolute. And I was like, well, that's an opinion. It's not a fact. It's not an absolute. It's not a 100% truth. And I'm thinking, I'm in the back of his Uber for 10 minutes. I'm going with Sarah to get her tattoo. I don't need to get into this deep conversation with him, or do I? So, and I'm pretty sure Sarah's probably sitting in front of the Uber like, oh my God, Ali's going to start on him in a minute. I didn't, by the way. But my first instinct was to say, is that true? Is that true? You can't just go to Canada and work in a factory. I was with this guy for 10 minutes. I don't know the ins and outs of the Canadian immigration process, what kind of job he was hoping to do in Canada. Well, I do know that because he told me what kind of job that he could get while he was trying to get the job that he wanted. I don't know how long he had spent researching the immigration process, researching the job market, researching ways in which he could get to Canada. But what I do know is that his energy changed when he spoke about this particular place in the world, and it lifted up hugely. Like me just sitting in the back witnessing it, I was like, I'll say it again, he came alive when he spoke about this place. In a way that he wasn't before. When he was talking about Scotland, he was like, yeah, I'm from Scotland, I'm half Maltese, half Scottish, and he was just kind of like, going like this. And then Sarah mentioned I almost say she's from Vancouver, she's from Scunthorpe, she lives in Vancouver. Sarah mentions that and his energy just went through the roof. That was like the first indication that there's an energetic connection here. There's an energetic alignment with something that's on that land over there. And then this absolute that he had decided, and to my knowledge, no one had ever questioned him on it. I didn't know, by the way, I've probably coached more Uber drivers than I've coached actual clients. Like I've gave away books to Uber drivers and sat outside my destination for 20 minutes talking to them. Why don't you try this? Have you ever thought about that? And like, I've honestly, like I wrote a book and there was whole conversations about conversations with Uber drivers. And this day I just felt this question come through my body and I decided to ask it. And I was like, okay, if you had to choose between Malta or Canada, what's your favourite? Where would you rather live, Malta or Canada? And there was this moment in the car where there was a bit of silence. And he was very chatty and there was this bit of silence, and then he was like, oh, that's a really good question. And I was like, yeah, okay, so answer it. And I was like laughing. I was like, right, it's a great question. So he was trying to put off the answer. He was trying to put it off because I don't think he wanted to say the answer out loud. Because if he says the answer out loud, then he's telling himself something that he might not have already known before. He knew it, he knew it subconsciously, but you know, when we speak our truths out loud for the first time, then generally what happens is the vibration of our voice means that we've got to do something about it. We will be required to do something about it, and we will then, if we don't go willingly, we will be forced to do something about it by the environment round about us, because that's how intelligent our bodies are, and that's how intelligent the God that we all carry within us is. That energy is always they're designed to give us exactly what we want and exactly what we need. So I asked him, where would you rather live, Malta, or I think I asked him what is your favourite, Malta or Canada? Where would you rather live? And he pushed it off. He pushed it off for a good minute and a half, and he said, oh, he was like, oh, it's a good question. It's a really good question. I've never asked myself that before, and I was like, right, okay, so I'm asking you, what's your answer? And Frances in the background, just back from Toronto, absolutely love Toronto. I could see her be like, Canada, Canada. She wanted to say Canada, but she wasn't. She didn't say anything at this point. And then he went, Canada. Canada's my preference would be Canada. And we're sitting in Malta, and he's driving an Uber, and he told us about his day job as well. And then we pulled up to the tattoo studio, and I said, well, now you know you would rather live in Canada than Malta. And everybody got out the car apart from me. And I looked back at him, and he said, oh, a guy can dream. And I was like, yeah, you can dream and you can also do. And then I just got out the car and closed the door. And I was like, there's no mistakes. We were supposed to meet that guy that day. Like, I can't even remember his name. Sarah told me his name. I know his surname because he told me what tartan he wears to weddings. So I know his great granny's surname because that's the tartan he wears. But we were placed on his path that day to transmit some information to him, and he was also placed on our path to transmit some information to us. And after meditating on it for a couple of days, we went on Monday, I was like, well, why we were placed on his path for a reason, why was he placed on mine? And everybody's got information. Every single person walking the face of this earth has got information that the next person doesn't have. And that information is tied up in our perception of everything. No two people on this earth, on this planet, have got the exact same perception of anything that's going on round about them. No two people have got the exact same level of consciousness. In the spirituality and the personal development field, we tend to hear of consciousness almost like it goes from lower to higher levels of consciousness, as if it goes in a linear path. But consciousness is like this constant ebbing and flowing of information that we all have within ourselves. And why would I say ebbing and flowing and not just evolving? Because sometimes we know things and then we close the door on it and we pretend to not know it anymore. We don't look at it. So you can have a consciousness of something, and then you can forget that you've had the consciousness or something because your ego is very clever and it'll try and not let you remember that thing that you've got to go and do, even although that's going to bring more awareness and more ultimately more joy to your life, but you've got to overcome a challenge on the way. So your consciousness ebbs and flows, and there's no two beings on this planet with the same level of consciousness, the same capacity of consciousness, or the same perception. So every single person that you meet, from the Uber driver to the guy that serves you in the supermarket, to the homeless person on the street, to the CEO of the company that you aspire to work for, to your person that you love on social media, the influencer that you aspire to be like, all of these people have got information flowing through their energetic systems, through the perception that they have of the world, and that's all an aspect of God. So God instructed me, the God within myself instructed me through the power of speech, through just sitting there hearing a question in my head and then saying it out loud to this guy I was put on his path in order to ask him that question. And later on, I was journaling about it, and I was like, my wish would be that he goes home that night and he thinks about what he said out loud, and he's like, right, maybe there's another path to Canada that I've not yet looked at. Maybe, you know, he's driving along that afternoon, and the God within him shows him a door to Canada that he's not yet pursued. Then I was like, right, well, why was he placed on my path? And I was journaling and meditating on it, and I came to the conclusion of, because I was shocked, right? When I got out the Uber, and I said to Sarah a couple of hours later, I was like, I was really shocked when that guy said that absolute statement. And I've worked with people all of my life. First of all, I've worked with people, but all of my adult life. And I've been interested in people and their opinions and their perceptions and their characteristics all my life. Like I've always taken an interest. I've always watched people and looked and formed opinions and perspectives myself based on, sometimes kinder than others, based on what other people are doing and saying. And still to be shocked that this guy had come out with this absolute statement of, well, you can't just go to Canada and work in a factory. Now, first of all, that's just not true. Like, anybody who was able to pass the immigration process could go to Canada and work in a factory. Like, you can, like, there's jobs in factories, and if you pass the immigration process, you can go and work. What he meant was, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to Canada and work in a factory. But and I don't know, right, because I didn't have enough of a conversation with this guy. I didn't ask more questions. I can only go on what I perceived from his energy when he was saying these things, and the tone of voice, the tonality that he used when he said certain sentences. But he had told himself a story, and the universe round about him, the physical reality that he lives in, was basically just fulfilling, mirroring back to him the story that he told himself. So you can't go to Canada and work in a factory. Okay, then guess what? You're not going to Canada to work in a factory. But if you look at life through such a narrow lens, well, okay, let's say you don't want to go to Canada and work in a factory. What do you do? How can you get there? What are some other paths that you might need to take to get to the place where you want to be? And this, I think, is the purpose of this week's theme that I couldn't reach was, and I was discussing it with Sarah this morning, that you have the desire's placed in your heart by God, by the most intelligent energy that we carry within ourselves, that knows the way, that has seen all of creation, that knows what you're capable of, that knows the capacity that you have, and that knows that if that desire is placed in your heart, then you can achieve it. So the desire comes in, and the path to the desire does not. So it's like we get the end goal, but we don't get the instruction manuals or the map on how to get there. Because if we saw the map all at once, we would run away and hide in fear. So perhaps this guy, perhaps his route to Canada is through working in a factory. Maybe he was supposed to go and get a job in a factory for 3 months, and while he's there, he gets the job of his dreams. But if his absolute perception of the world is you can't do that, that's not worth doing it, then he won't get to Canada. He won't get to the place where he was really, really excited and expressed a wish to be. The path in which you will achieve your dreams, in which you will achieve your desires, comes based on the programming that we are carrying within us. And that programming is based on the energy that flows through our system and the lessons that we've got to learn along the way. Why, if we take it away from our Scottish friend, because I don't want to feel like I'm making assumptions and being mean, and I'm not. I'm absolutely 100% not. I wish nothing more than for this guy to go and live in Canada because he was so energized by it. Like, part of me wanted to stay in the Uber for 20 more minutes so that I could say to him, well, what about this? What about that? And just see if we could sift through his mind to get him to a place where he could see a path to get there. Because my opinion is that God put it in his heart that he would like to one day live in Canada. So God then therefore will also he will put the path, God will put the path to Canada. But the problem comes because we don't like it. We don't like the things that are placed on our path along the way. And they're placed on our path on purpose along the way. And we're not supposed to like them because they're there to challenge us. And we don't, as humans, we like challenges that are within our control. We like challenges if it comes from going in the ice bath at 6 a.m. in the morning and lifting the heavy weights in the gym. But then if a challenge is placed on your path that you don't like, that we don't like, then we pretend not to see it, or we create a story, a reality around it that's an absolute, that's, well, I can't do that, that can't happen. These things are this way, based on generally fears within our system. They're generally stagnant fears that have been in our system for a long time, that we've also inherited from genetically from our ancestors, from our family, and also environmentally from the family that we were brought up in, and also the culture and the society we were brought up in. And none of them are real. The fears that most people that sit in front of me have, they're just simply not true. Like a couple of times this week, my clients have said to me, I just don't know if I have what it takes to do this. And each time, generally what happens with my clients is they all kind of go through a theme at the same time when they don't know each other and they don't know that they're each going through the themes. But they'll all sit in front of me and say the same thing at the same time. So I've got to look within myself and see which part of me is also telling myself the same thing that they're saying. And this week, the theme has been, I just don't know if I can do this. That's, first of all, what is this? Is the first question that I've asked every single person. What is this? And the answers have ranged from taking my business to 7 figures, taking my business to 8 figures, being in the relationship of my dreams, being the wife that my husband needs me to be, being the husband my wife needs me to be, being the person the world needs me to be, furthering my business, being a better mother, being a better father. What is this? But we're doing this thing where we look at the end goal. Okay, the dream, the end dream, and the caveat I'm going to give you here is that there is no end goal, there is no end dream. You get to that dream, you dream another dream, we're constantly evolving. But let's say the next dream, the next desire. I just don't know if I have what it takes to do this, to achieve this desire. Okay, your desires are way over there. You're not being asked to do it in one day. So we could take our Scottish friend, his desires to live in Canada, and he can't see Canada based on his perception of what's here. You can't go and work in Canada and you can't go to Canada and work in a factory. That's a perception that you've created here in Malta that is dictating the reality that you live in. Whereas we could have gotten another Uber driver's Uber car that day, and the driver's like, oh, I really want to go and live in London. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go and work in a factory for the first 3 months and go to night school and do a course, do a refresher course in XYZ, and then maybe in a year's time I'll get a job doing ABC. It's your perception of the current situation that creates the reality that we live in. Everybody, and that's why everybody lives in 8 billion different realities, even though we all live in the same world. And I've gone down a path and I can't remember because I looked out the window and I saw a bus and it just completely it just completely threw me because it's like quite a bright bus and I just looked out the window and I saw it. So I'm going to try and pull myself back. So the I was in energetic systems and fear, wasn't I? Am I getting better? If you've been coming to my this call for a while, am I getting better at pulling myself back? Am I doing less of the going down tangents and forgetting why I'm there? Please write to me in the Q&A. That hopefully a bit of encouragement that I'm getting better, that I do less of this and I do it more when I'm tired. we hold these stagnant energies of fear, these stagnant emotions of fear within our system, and then they create the reality that we live in. And then we will just continue to live in that reality. God is a neutral power. God will just give you whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is that you ask for, whatever it is that you affirm, whatever it is that you say out loud. If you say my life is hard, your life will continue to be hard. If you say my life is great, your life will get greater. The challenge that we face is that, because, and I said this last week, like I'm a huge fan of gratitude and affirmations and living into the blessings that we are grateful for. And the people that are in my female program, we have a journal where you write the things that you're grateful for and the things that went well that day, and the ways that you can embody the highest version of yourself. And we write them on repetition, and the more you write it, the more you live into it. But while you're living into these new vibrations that you're being asked to, the new frequencies that you're being asked to vibrate at, you are constantly being asked to shed the layers of fear that you've accumulated over the years. And these will show up in the form of challenges. That's always what's going to happen. So if you take it back to, you express your desires, and then God God puts everything on your path for you to be able to achieve those desires, but more importantly, to be able to vibrate at a frequency that can hold the desires when you get there. And I say this every single week on this call, and I will say it every week on every call coming until I'm blue in the face. You can have your desires, but if you don't change the frequency that you're vibrating at, you'll achieve your desires and you'll be every bit as agitated, unhappy, feeling unsafe, feeling fearful as what you are in your current situation. So if your current situation is, I'm just afraid I can't do this, and then what you do is, if you don't change that frequency, that mindset, that programming, that coding, then you will achieve your desires despite yourself, and you'll be afraid that you can't hold them and you can't keep them and you'll lose them again. Or you'll have an even bigger desire placed in your heart, and you'll still have that feeling of, but I just don't know if I can do this, but I just don't know if I can do this. And I have coached hundreds of people over the years that, live the life that most people I know, certainly where I come from, would absolutely dream of living, and they're not happy while they live it. They have everything that you could, the tick list of your dream life. You could tick every box on the list and they're still unhappy. So, the idea that we get these things in the material world that are somehow going to fulfill us and bring this happiness that seemed elusive is absolutely ludicrous. It's like the happiness is right here and right now. Our friend, the Uber driver, maybe perhaps he's happy enough in Malta. The difference in his energy when he spoke about Canada showed a huge contrast, especially between speaking about Scotland and then Malta and then Canada. It was like, and then through the roof. And that shows a contrast of, I'd rather be that place than this place. That's a desire. That's a desire that's been placed in your heart. You'll receive the desire through impulses, through these little like flashes of inspiration, things that happen, synchronicities in the outside world that will say, I think this should happen, and I think you should do this. I think people calling you up and saying, can you come for a visit? People saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And you connect all the dots together and you realise that you're being called to do something different, go somewhere different, be something different. And then you will be faced with the challenges. And this is Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, where you've got things that you've got to learn along the way, because you don't have the desires, because you're not vibrating at the frequency of the type of person that has those desires that you want. So you have to clear your stagnant energy before you can get to there, so that you can, again, number one, hold it, and number two, enjoy it. That's the most important thing. And if this guy is enjoying 100% his life in Malta, and he told us his day job and he really loves it, and it's something that he really enjoys doing. If he's enjoying it enough, then he'll just, he's comfortable and he's happy, and then he'll continue to do that. That's a very dangerous place to be, it's better to be unhappy in your current situation than it is to be somewhat happy, because if you're just happy-ish, happy enough, then you have the desires placed in your heart, but you're maybe not, you don't have enough of a contrast between where you are and where you want to be in order to push you to do it. Whereas if you're unhappy in your current situation, then there's a bigger contrast. The bigger contrast is, I don't like this here, I really want that thing over there. Then the contrast starts to get bigger in order for you to be pushed towards the thing, which is why I always say you can pardon me, you can walk to your desires, or you can be dragged kicking and screaming to your desires. But if you've expressed the desire, you're going there anyway. So it's better to walk and to be somewhat in control of what's happening and somewhat up for the challenge of everything that's happening along the way, rather than just, turning your back and being dragged kicking and screaming the whole way. How does that look in everyday life? What I'd like everybody here on the call, and I would like everyone to do it, I'm not going to read out everyone's comments, but I would like everybody here on the call to write in the Q&A a desire that you have, or something in your life at the moment that you desire, that you don't have to write the specific desire down of what they are, but just write a challenge that you're facing on the way to your desires, right? So I'd like everyone to write it down, everyone on the call to write it down, and I'll read one or two out. A challenge that you're facing on the path to your heart's desire. So that I can show you a different perception of it, because all that's happening is that our perceptions of our challenges on the path can sometimes be obscuring the next steps that we need to take. Okay, so that's what's happened with our friendly Uber driver, is that he's been placed with a challenge of, well, what job would I do? How do I get through the immigration process? So he stepped into it somewhat. And by the way, again, like, I can't make huge assumptions. I don't know enough about the guy. All I was doing was just reading the situation that was in front of me, but I don't know how much in the immigration process, how many jobs he applied for, how many jobs he was turned down for, but he'd now created this absolute reality where he was like, I'm not going to be able to do that, I need to just stay here. That's what's going to happen. I just don't believe that that's the case. I don't believe that God would ever put a desire into someone's heart without also offering them the solution to every challenge that came up. So I'm going to ask again if you could write in the Q&A, and I want everyone to do it on the call, everyone to write a challenge that you're facing on your path to your desires. I'm not going to encourage people to, I'm not going to give you examples because I'm not going to put words in everybody's mouth. What I want you to do is like come up with your own challenges. Feel what floods through your body when I ask the question. Sometimes you might not like it. A lot of times people say to me, I don't hear anything, I don't feel anything, I don't know, my mind's just gone blank. That's just a shutdown mechanism that you've got from a fear mechanism from fight or flight. Someone asks you a question, so like the guy, the Uber driver, who by the way was awesome and lovely, and if you're ever watching this video, then I'm going to give you a shout out to say that thank you for our Uber ride on Monday. But when I asked him the question, do you prefer Canada or Malta, he pushed the question back for like almost 2 minutes. He pushed the question back of like, oh, that's a good question, is what he said to me. That's a good question. It's, I've never asked myself that before, because he heard the answer. His body would have given the answer. Right? I already knew the answer by the energy that flowed through his system when he even mentioned Canada. So everybody in that car knew the answer. He just didn't want to voice it out loud, because you voice it out loud, then you're creating a new reality, you're creating a new level of consciousness. Oh, actually, I prefer there over here. Now what am I going to do about that? So we've had a couple of challenges. So what happens is we tend to have specific challenges, and I'm not going to read them out. I'm going to say that there's patterns of behavior that are tied in with your specific challenges that you're having. Okay, so patterns of behavior that come from a place of fight or flight, that come from a place of fear, that come from stagnant fears within your system. And how did the fears manifest in your physical reality? So if you have a fear of letting people down, let's say that's a fear that some people have, and people have commented here, a fear of letting people down. Okay, so what's the ultimate fear? You let someone down. Well, first of all, there's, that's subjective. Like, it's not what the other person perceives as being let down for. And also, there's always two people in every situation, right? So if you're letting someone down, then what did they bring to the table in every single situation with a relationship, friendship, relationship, marriage? There's two people sitting at the table every time, or more than two people. It's not just you sitting at the table by yourself. So let's say I've got a fear of letting people down, right? Who are these people that you're going to be letting down? So let's say I've got a fear of letting my mother down because I didn't make her proud of me with my career choice. Okay, so you and your mother both sit at the table in that situation. It's not just you there shouldering all the responsibility. She's also sitting at the table of your relationship, and you're only responsible for your part that you play. You are 100% responsible for that part, but you're only responsible for the part that you play in it. You cannot change her perception of you. If you've done this, chose this career path that she feels has somehow let her down, then that's her perception, and you cannot change anything about that. But you're 100% responsible for your perception of it. And it's a pattern of behaviour that is from putting other people's feelings before your own, first of all. And also a fear, your fight or flight kicks in, and you've got a fear of somehow being kicked out of your mother's tribe by not adhering to her expectations that she has of you. The pattern of behavior that you have is that you're choosing to put someone else's comfort, someone else's fears, someone else's feelings, someone else's emotions before your own. That you can only take 100% responsibility for what you're sitting at the table and doing, and it's your life, and you're an adult, you're a fully grown adult, and you can do whatever you want with your life, and it's not actually on your mum as a fully grown adult to tell you what to do. And she's also sitting at the table with 100% responsibility for her perception. But we also always take it back to a pattern of behaviour. So the pattern of behaviour is, this person views me in this way. I've created a personality, an avatar, a character around me feeling safe while that person looks at me this way, because someone else has said I need to be perfect with things I do or say, which is similar. So I've created this avatar, this persona, this character, and this character does these things. This character's got a rule book where she or he behaves a certain way, earns a certain amount of money, is seen in society in a certain way, is seen in the community in a certain way, is seen by the parents, by the spouse, by the children in a certain way. And if I don't adhere to that, then I'm somehow unsafe. I'm somehow unsafe. I've lost my identity. I've lost my character. I've lost the avatar that I've created, and I'm out in the street and I'm completely naked, and nobody loves me, and I'm by myself. And what will I do? I'm going to die from exposure. That's a conditioning that we've all got inside of us as humans. We all have this fear within us of not fitting in with our chosen tribe. And I had this conversation with someone recently where you can there's a tribe of people that don't fit in. And guess what? If you don't fit in, you're in that tribe. You're in the people that don't conform. So you're in the conform to the tribe, or you're in the don't conform to the tribe, but you're in one of the tribes. Like, there's people build a whole persona on, I'm not the same as everybody else, but guess what? You're also in a tribe with other people that are not the same as everybody else, so therefore you're the same as these people over here. So we're never truly alone. So we all have this fear of this subconscious fear of not being accepted, not being loved, of being shut out, of being abandoned. That comes from childhood, that comes from, you know, your parents not even verbalizing, not even verbally indicating how they feel in certain ways that you behave, but just their body being more tense, their energy being lower, there being more fear in their system, that you know that if you behaved a certain way, or if your father behaved a certain way, if your mother behaved a certain way, or someone else in the vicinity, that you're a little kid and you're just reading the energy of everybody, and that's what little kids do. They're little energetic sponges, not consciously reading the energy, but they're scanning the horizon to see what do I do, how do I fit in, how do I be like the bigger people. If you're constantly watching all around you and you see your mother stiffening up when your dad mentions money or food or their, you know, their relationship, something about their, you know, just whatever way they talk to each other, you see your mother's body stiffening up, you feel her energy changing ever so slightly. The younger we are, the more perceptive we are to this. Then you're going to create your personality based on that. That personality that you've created, that character, that avatar has a pattern of behavior, many patterns of behavior that we all have, that it's a pattern that manifests in a certain characteristic. So the pattern of behavior is, I'm going to control the situation so that those people out there see me in a certain way. And if I don't have control over it and they don't see me in the way that I wish to be perceived, then I'm just going to shut down. I'm going to choose a fight or flight response subconsciously more often than not. That is, I'm going to shut down and just pretend it's not happening. I'm going to stand up and fight and argue and try and reassert myself at the top of the hierarchy, or I'm going to just run away. Right, so it's a pattern of behavior that's always vibrating at a frequency of fear, which is the other word for that is lack of love, lack of unconditional love. So you could take, everybody here can take everything that they've written to me, and what I want you to do is I want you to look at the challenge that you are facing through the eyes of unconditional love and curiosity, because that's what God is, unconditional love and curiosity. That's what the highest frequency of God is, right? So God is a spectrum of all emotions and everything and everyone and everything that we can conceive and perceive as God. So in the emotional scale, we can say that God is both the darkness and the light, and the lower vibrations and also the higher vibrations. So if God is the highest aspect of God, the most enjoyable, the most blissful and all accepting and all powerful and all loving aspect of God that we carry within ourselves is the emotions of unconditional love and the perception of curiosity. I want you to take your challenge that you've written to me now, and I want you to look at that challenge through the lens of unconditional love and curiosity, and then write the solution to your challenge through that lens. So I'm not going to put words in your mouth. What I want you to do is I want you to be in your body and put both feet on the ground and listen to the words that I'm saying to you. You've written down your challenge, you've written down what your challenge is. Now I want you to imagine that God has come into the room, because God is within you and God is sitting at the table with you, and God is reading the challenge that you've just written to me in the Q&A. What does God say about that? What does the energy of unconditional love and curiosity say about those challenges? What is the solution? Now, these solutions will come through as a commandment. They'll come through fast, simple, follow this, do that, be like this, let go of this, surrender to that. One word, it might be one word, like I heard a word for someone else's, someone who's written a very specific challenge that they're facing, and I heard the word that that God is speaking to them. So I would like everybody to write down what they hear when I say view your challenge through the lens of unconditional love and curiosity, and connect with the God within yourself, and then write the solution. And I'm going to choose one solution, one challenge and one solution at random, and I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'm going to elaborate on how we got there. So I've got someone who says, a challenge I'm facing on my path is my need to be perfect with things I do or say. If that person is still on, can you come on and chat with me? Are you able to come on and chat live? Oh, hi.
Hi.
Okay. So a challenge that you're facing on on the path to your dream life is your need to be perfect with things you do or say. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So when I asked you to be with the highest version of yourself, you said the next step is to be that person who isn't perfect. How does that make you feel?
That's the part that it feels scary. Like it feels like it's not me, but at the same time, it's like I feel stuck going through with things because I don't 100% know that I can do them perfectly.
So what are the things? Give me a real life example.
Um, I feel like it shows up. It could be in my personal life. It could be in my, I don't have a real, like an actual example, but it could be, um,
Something that you do that you feel uncomfortable doing because you're not perfect at it. Or something that you're being asked to do that you might not have done already.
being like open and expressive about how I'm feeling. Like I find myself kind of just getting in my own way about that, being like, oh, but maybe nobody needs to hear that, or maybe it's not the right thing. Like it's like trying to kind of be a little bit more open when it comes to how I'm feeling.
Can you think of a time recently where you've wanted to say something and you haven't said the thing that you've wanted to say?
Yeah.
Is it something that you would like to share, or you don't feel comfortable sharing?
I mean, I have to kind of give, I guess, not, I have like give the whole background, but I do feel like it happens often. Like I want to thank somebody for doing something for me, but then it feels awkward or feels uncomfortable. So I'm just like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, I just don't need to say that thing. Or I want to like share something with my kids, but then it feels uncomfortable. So I'm like, oh, they don't need to know that. It's okay. So it's like, I wish it would be easier for me to like open up about those things and express how I'm feeling or what it is that I want coming from a place of like openness and truth as opposed to it often comes across as like anger.
So at the start of the sentence, you said, I wish it could be easier. Is that what you said? Yeah, I wish it could
Mhm.
be easier for me. So I think that's the first challenge that we face. I wish it could be easier. It's not. It's not going to be easier. How are we going to make it easier?
By telling myself that it's easy.
And also by doing it. That's how anything that we do gets easier. So
Right.
I wish it could be easier. Okay. So we have to sit with that for a minute, because that's a subconscious programming that's running your physical reality, right? I wish this could be easier. So then we just have to take that off the table. It's not. It's not going to be easier. It's going to be challenging because it's new, and that's okay. And I'm going to have to do it despite the fact that it's challenging. How does that feel?
To me, it feels a little, I mean, I'm the one who's being contradictory because I also have this belief that, like, in order for me to do something well, it has to be very hard. It's like something that's come up for me. It's like I it's okay for things to be easy. Like it's like I've been programmed, I guess, to think like if you want to get something or be somebody or get the things that you want in life, you have to really, really work really, really hard for those things.
So I'll just pick up on something else that you said. I've been programmed, I guess. Have you been programmed? Yes or no?
Yes.
But it's okay. Like it's not just by your parents or just by your society or just by your community. It's by the world at large. We're constantly
Mhm.
being conditioned and programmed. Do you feel uneasy about that word, or do you feel uneasy about where you think the programming came from?
No, I feel okay with kind of, I do feel okay with this has been my programming. I don't think it's served me very well, but this has been my belief system for a very long time, and it has gotten me very far in life. But at the same time, it's also holding me back because I have this belief that if I don't work really, really hard at something, I'm not going to be able to get there.
So there's nuance in a lot of these things, right? A lot of these perceptions that we have. Two opposing beliefs can also be true at the same time, right? And that working hard for something that you want, it's our perception of that work, what that working hard is, right? We decide if something feels easy or if it feels challenging. We can have that perception of it. But if we tell ourselves, oh, this is easy, but it doesn't actually feel easy, then we're not doing ourselves any favors, because there's a little voice inside going, but actually it's not. I find it challenging. Right. And what you find challenging is all to do with the instruction manual that came with you when you were born for your journey through life. The person next to you might not find challenging. Someone in your family might not find challenging. Someone in your business might not find challenging, but that doesn't mean that it's not challenging to you. But we can look at it through two ways and just choose whichever way makes us actually be able to do the thing. This is challenging, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or you can tell yourself, oh, this is actually really easy. So let's take the telling your kids how you feel. Was it telling your kids, expressing to your kids how you feel about something, and it's not something you would normally do? Is that one of your things?
Yeah, I can give an example. Like it's like so the other day, like it's I was coming to the kitchen and I was rushing to get some stuff ready for my call. I was starting to work and my daughter was there and she was unloading the dishes from the dishwasher. And it was like this moment where I was like, okay, normally I would be like, can you move? Like you're in my way. I need to do my things. Can you move? Whereas I was like, well, that's not very kind to her. Like she's doing something to help out. And so I was like, okay, this feels so uncomfortable, but I can say this in a different way. I can say, you know what, I so appreciate you unloading the dishwasher for me. It's going to help me so much. But do you mind doing it in 5 minutes just when I'm done getting my stuff together before my call? And the look on her face was like, oh, yeah, okay. And that came across as so much kinder, so much calmer. But it really took a lot of like inner battle within me, be like, "Oh, it's just so much easier to say, can you move? Like you're in my way. Can you move?" And that would have been sort of how I would have communicated in the past, but it felt really good to not communicate that way again.
Was the reward greater than the battle?
Yes.
Seeing her face when you made her feel safe and praised her for what she was doing first and then asked her to do something just slightly different?
Yes. But my insides inside were like turning on themselves, being like, well, you're in a rush. Like just rush in there and do what you would do and be like, you know what, I don't have time for you right now. Can you move?
But you didn't.
No.
I don't know if I've said this on this call before, and it's an example of this, but it's such a silly example, right? That I used to just put my pots and pans in the cupboard whatever way I took them out the dishwasher or out the sink. If I didn't have a dishwasher, I wouldn't stack them. I would just put them in whatever way, because I was in a rush. I was always in a rush, and I'm like, right, just put them in and take them out, and like it's fine. Like later on, if I'm looking for a specific pot or pan and I can't find it because they're not in like the order that you expect them to be in, which is stacked, which by the way I recognise makes more sense, right? More logical sense to stack it in the cupboard the way that's logically they're designed to fit that way. But I was always like, no, just chuck it in. I'm in too much of a hurry, just chuck it in. I've got 10 million other things to do. And when I was like on this journey of changing my perception, changing my programming, changing who I am in the world and how I behave in the world, and I always say this to my clients that it's not the thing, it's the pattern of behavior around the thing, right? So then I decided that I was going to become the type of person that stacks the pots and pans properly, because it was more efficient in the long run. Because while I'm rushing while I put them in, when I go and get them to do the cooking, I can't find the pot or pan that I'm looking for. So the time's balancing itself out anyway. And it's like, no, just relax your body, slow down, and put the pots and pans in the cupboard properly. And also I decided and fully believe this, that the pots and pans just getting thrown haphazardly into the cupboard wasn't that. It was symbolic of everything else that was going on in my life at that time. Everything was getting thrown about haphazardly. And the first step was to be present enough in my body enough times when I was doing it to stack the pots and pans properly. And I thought if I could get enough presence doing that, then that pattern of behavior will go somewhere else as well. Does that make sense? Right.
Yeah.
So when I first started doing it, if I was in my body enough, then I would do it. And then sometimes I wouldn't. And then I would hear this little voice inside of me that would be like, you didn't stack the pans properly, go back and stack the pans properly. And by the way, because it sounds a wee bit ridiculous, but my cupboard was in a really awkward position as well. So I had to be down on the floor. It wasn't the right cupboard to put the pots and pans in. And I would be down on the floor and trying to get them into this little, like, put it in the back of this little cupboard like this. And I was the person that put the pots and pans out, and then I was the person that took the pots and pans out because I was the only person that did the cooking. So it was all on me. This cupboard was all on me. Nobody else was there saying that's not a logical way to do it. That's not the correct way to do it. It was more just, this was my cupboard and I was doing whatever I wanted. And then I had this thought of, no, I'm going to start stacking them properly. And when I started doing it, in the beginning, I would do it sometimes, and then other times I would forget to do it, or I would be out of my body, I'd be in my mind, I'd be on the next thing on my to-do list, and then I would just not do it. But I started to hear this little voice inside of myself going, you didn't do that thing. You didn't do that thing you said you were going to do. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It was that thing that you said you were going to do. And I would be annoyed at myself for not doing it. And I'd be more annoyed at the voice, because then I'd be like, oh, now I've got to go back and do it. And I'd go back and I'd be fixing the pots and pans in the cupboard and a bit annoyed at myself, but I've got to just do it properly because I told myself I was going to do it, and now I've got to do the thing and I'm really annoyed. And then I would put them in. And then over time, I just became the woman that stacked the pots and pans properly. This is not a story about pots and pans. This is a story about my pattern of behavior, that I knew some things needed to change in my life, and that I decided that I was going to make a conscious effort to change these things. And in the beginning, it was really, really challenging for me. And sometimes when I get tired and stressed and I'm not in my body and I'm in my head and I'm ticking to-do lists and stuff like that, I even in another house or in an Airbnb, I sometimes catch myself just putting the pots or pans in haphazardly and then reminding myself, no, that's not you. You're not that person anymore. But she's still in there. She's that woman that was stressed and uptight and not present with what she was doing because she was always 10 steps ahead because she was running from trauma. She's still in there. Like the the programming is still inside the system. And if I don't look after myself properly, then I can revert back. But it took a long time of deciding that I was going to be the person that put the pots and pans in properly, to becoming the person that puts the pots and pans in properly, and then always having an understanding that I've got to be vigilant of who I am and when I'm present, and if I feel tired and if I've been stressed, and there's these little pointers that go, oh no, wait a minute, you're reverting back. So I used, when I first started coaching, I would say to my clients, you've got a baseline blueprint that is just your blueprint that you got, and you never really questioned it. And then you get to kind of like midlife and you start questioning the way that you do a lot of things. You get into personal development, you get back in touch with your own spirituality, you start questioning the way that you do a lot of things. And then you create a new blueprint, but the baseline blueprint's still there. And if we're not always with ourselves and with that alignment that we have to this higher blueprint that we have access to, then we can slip back. And we can for sure have things like a spiritual death in your own lifetime, where you can have like a huge trauma that can just actually push you back to the person that you used to be, because that was your baseline blueprint. First of all, does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
So second of all, are you this new version of you that you've created for it's on the path to your greatest self or your greater self, the next version of you, she's learning things about how to communicate with other people. That's a new way of being. That's it, that's what it sounds like. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So do you think that, and by the way, this is a trick question, because I know you think this, that because you've said the next step is the things you find challenging is you need to be perfect. So you're doing something that's new to you, and guess what? You're not perfect at it.
Right, which is why it doesn't feel safe to me.
Which is why it doesn't feel good as well. Because I said, you give me a real life example of something that you're being asked to do that you're not good at, and you couldn't find it, and then you found one and you're like, oh, okay, right, because I'm not perfect at it. I'm not a straight A student. I don't just walk into the kitchen and go, hi, thank you so much for doing that. But could you do it in 5 minutes? It doesn't come naturally to you. But what you've done is you've created an avatar where you've created things that do come perfect to you and do come that you are perfect at. But in the beginning, you also weren't perfect at those things. Challenge me on this, but I'm assuming you did not come out the womb speaking perfectly and walking.
Right.
Not in the first week or so. No.
No.
But you speak lovely, you speak eloquently, you can walk perfectly, right? But you had to learn how to do these things. Everything that you've ever done, you've been a beginner at some point. Every single thing. There's nothing that you've not been a beginner at, including parenting. So we have a baseline blueprint for parenting. You said it was your daughter, right, that you spoke to?
Mm-hmm.
So you go in and you parent your children. Sometimes you parent them in the way that you were parented without realizing, and sometimes you make a conscious effort to parent them in certain aspects and the opposite of the way you were parented, because it's something that you recognized, right? But a lot of it's just baseline programming. And then you get to this stage in life where you're like, right, okay, I'm going to work on doing this differently. And it's like you're a beginner again. It's like someone that daughter that's unloading the dishwasher, it's like she's a newborn and someone's just placed her in your arms. You're a newborn mother to her because you're doing it in a newborn way. It's a new way for you. And you want, what you want is your however many decades of expertise you've got in mothering, you want that to transfer over, and it's not.
Right.
Oh, but I've been a mum for this amount of time. Why am I finding this part challenging? And my daughter's 26, and I find lots of parts of parenting her challenging now that I didn't find challenging 10 years ago. Not because 10 years ago I was a better parent, because 10 years ago I didn't have enough awareness of my parenting. So
Mhm.
I find parenting much harder now, much more challenging now than I did 10 years ago, because I've got much more awareness of what I'm actually doing every time I communicate with her. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep going with it.
Mhm.
What
It's
is it?
also very helpful to know that you have to, I mean, part of the change is to be persistent and keep going with it. It's not going to happen overnight, which is also kind of like, I want to do the things once and then be like, great, now I got it. It's done. And so it's like, no, you have to work at it. And especially it's like, hey, I did it once. That's great. Be proud of that. But it's going to be something that I need to keep doing and reminding myself over and over again. And it's not just going to change and then every so often sort of slip back into old behaviors and then remind myself, no, I don't want to do that. You want to kind of be this person. And so that's the constant learning cycle.
And how did you feel when you said she smiled and said, okay, and you made her feel so safe and so seen? And
Yeah,
how did that feel?
that felt great. Like it just the result was the same, but it came about from a very different place where she felt good, I felt good, she felt appreciated. Everything was calm. There was no, me pulling her into the thing that I was rushing towards. Like it just everything felt so much better.
When you first went in and you argued with yourself, you battled with yourself over, or just say it the way you normally would say it, what was it you were afraid of?
I was afraid of it taking more time. Like it's going to take longer when you have 5 minutes until your call starting. It's going to take longer to express it that way.
Okay,
And I
so
was afraid of it like coming across as awkward.
you're 100% responsible for everything that's going on in your life. Do you agree with that sentence, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a meeting starting in 5 minutes that is causing you to be so rushed in your body that your baseline blueprint would have you be snappy. Would you agree with that? Be snappy?
Hmm. Yeah.
Snap. Okay. So your energy is one of tension, anger, frustration, fear, right? Fear will come out as snappiness. Like you said, what was it you said that you wanted to say to her? Get it, move out the way. Is that what you said?
Yeah, like can you move? Can you move? I need to get my stuff ready for work.
Okay. Say it to me now in the way that you would have said it to her if you were just weren't present enough to change it. Say it to me in the same voice.
I would be like, can you move? You're in my way and I need to get my stuff.
Would you have said it like that? You're rushed, you're tense. Would you have said it like that?
Maybe a little faster. Like, can you move?
Right, okay. So like more like that. Can you move? Forceful?
Yeah.
Can you move? You're in my way, I need to get my stuff. How does that sound?
Not very nice, like an attack. Like it's very aggressive.
And your daughter, how would that feel inside her body when she heard that?
Mm. Like she would feel like she's being pounced upon,
Attacked.
attacked. Yeah.
So what I'm about to say might sting a little, okay?
Yeah.
You're 100% responsible for everything that's happening in your life. That includes that call that you're about to have in 5 minutes' time. You've created a reality where you don't have enough time that you can do whatever it is that you need to do in the kitchen while someone else is in there. Who are you really angry at?
Right.
Sounds
Myself.
good. Why?
Because I didn't allow myself for enough time to do the things that I wanted to do calmly with presence, regardless of who else was in there.
And you've also created a situation where the lay of the land has to be a certain way for you to be able to do the thing, which is she can't be standing at the dishwasher while you do it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're 100% responsible for everything that's happening, and so is she. She's 100% responsible for everything that's happening in that situation from her perspective, right?
Mhm.
But like you said at the top of the question, she's doing something kind. She's unloading the dishwasher. She's essentially trying to make your life a bit easier.
Right.
So that tension that you feel, that annoyance, frustration in your body also comes from down to your own timekeeping.
Hmm.
If you had 10 minutes before your call when you walked into the kitchen, would you have felt the same way?
No.
When you're on the path, you're being asked to you're being on this path to your desires of being let's say being a parent that's has more kinder communication with your kids. Would you say that?
Yeah.
There's parts of your everyday life that are going to have to change on that path that you won't like. There's chop wood, carry water. That's what I'd say to my clients all the time. There's things in the day that have to change, and one of them might be looking at your own timekeeping. How does that make you feel?
Hmm. Not great.
What does that mean? Not great.
I don't like having to change things about myself, which isn't fair to the other person because I expect the other person to kind of bend and adjust to my schedule, to the way I do things. But yet it's like I don't want to change what I'm doing to allow that difference to happen.
But ultimately it's a win-win, because if you went into the kitchen 10 minutes before your call, you would feel more calm. You would have 10 minutes
Right.
instead of 5. So this isn't just for her and for your communication with her. This is for you. Like, so you're not rushing. What were you doing? Were you getting a drink? Were you getting yourself something to eat? What were you doing?
Both.
Right. So do you think, let's take it away from you, take it away from this current situation. Do you think that if someone's got a call or a meeting or a specific event and it's happening in 5 minutes time, or it's happening in 10 minutes time, and in the space of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, they've got to eat or drink, do you think it would be more beneficial for them to have 10 minutes or to have 5 minutes?
Yeah. So 10 minutes. I
Why?
was making a drink because I don't want everything to be so rushed, but yet I've kind of gotten used to only knowing how to do things in a rushed manner.
Because of your programming, right?
Right.
And everything that you wish for and this dream desire, people come on these calls with me, it's because they have desires that they don't currently have. Is that true for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got desires that you don't currently have. When you achieve those desires, do you want to be rushing about?
No.
So can you see why the habits and behaviors have to change here? Because you
Yeah.
you you will get your desires in your dream life, you will get them, but if you're still rushing about and you're still giving yourself 5 minutes instead of 10 to make yourself a drink, then you'll have all your desires and dreams, but you'll still be having them in the same tense body. So what gets placed on your path is you think the challenge here is expressing the emotions, the instructions. You think that was the challenge. You did that part. There you go. You get your gold star for that part. You did it really, really well. The tension was already inside your body because you were in a rush.
Hmm. Right. So the challenge is not rushing so that you're
Yeah,
not placed in that situation.
because you're doing the thing. I do think some of the fear was, you know, how you're going to be able to say it, how she's going to receive it, because you're not used to this expressing yourself in this way. But also a huge part of that challenge was because you were rushed while you were doing it. Because let's say you had to express something else to your daughter at a different time and you had plenty of time to do it. Right? Let's say like you wanted to praise her on something that she's been doing recently, but you're not yet at a place in your expression as a parent where you're able to do that. But you give yourself 20 minutes to have a conversation with her about it. Would you feel a certain amount of fear going into the conversation?
Yes.
But let's say I said, right, no, you've got 3 minutes to say it. And you're on a timer.
Right. And
And I'm going to, in 3 minutes' time, I'm going to phone you and make sure that you've had that conversation. Would you feel more tense?
yes, but it would also push me more to do it now. Like if I have 20 minutes, be like, oh, I have 20 minutes. Let me just run it through my head a million more times until I have to say it. It's like the longer the time frame, the more I have to think about it.
Okay, so I'm going to take away some of those parameters then, right? Because this is make-believe land where Ali comes in and she says, two of you sit down and you're going to start the conversation now, and I've got a timer and I'm going to come back in 20 minutes, right? And you've got to have all this. And then I say, right, I come in and I go, right, okay, come back in 5 minutes. So go and tell her what you've got to tell her.
Right.
Which one of those feels better?
Yeah, the one that isn't rushed, the first one.
Probably a huge part of it as well is, and by the way, like I'm actually like formulating these thoughts while I'm speaking to you, is that if you've got to do things that you don't like to do, don't want to do, you probably want to do them in a hurry. Because it's like you're like, right, okay, right, I'll do it fast and then I'll get it done. And then because that was always what I was like. This is the pots and pans story, right? It's like I don't actually want to be putting the pots and pans in the cupboard. I want someone else to do it for me so I can be over here doing this thing that I've got to do over here that's more important. But instead I'm shoving the pots and pans in. So would it be nicer if someone brought you the drink? Made the drink for you and brought
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be nicer if your daughter was doing that instead of making the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher?
Yes.
So there's a whole host of things that's going on inside your body, right? You're like, I'm working on expressing myself in a kinder way to everybody around about me. I'm finding that challenging because it's this new type of parenting and expression and communicating that I'm doing, and I'm finding it challenging. And then and I've got to do it, and I've got to call in 5 minutes. And she's standing in my way. And my usual way of being would just be like, can you get out of my way? I've got to do this thing. But because now you've got this new level of awareness of the way that you speak to someone else is also has an effect on them, especially when they're essentially your subordinates because they're your children. It's like, I've got to do this thing that I'm being asked to do that I'm finding challenging. And even got to do it now when I've got a call in 5 minutes. All of that's going around and round and round in your system. Doesn't feel good. But what do you have control over here, and responsibility and power? Most important word in that sentence. What do you have power over here?
My own actions and my own energy.
So your own actions were like, I actually think like you did it beautifully, like what you were required to do, what your higher self asked you to do. You could have walked in and went, no, just get out the way. Instead, you're like, thank you so much for doing that. But could you do it in 5 minutes because I've got a call? I think the actions and the habits and behaviors that you're being asked to look at by your own body, by your higher self, is giving yourself enough time, because regardless of whether she was unloading the dishwasher or not, giving yourself 5 minutes to make the drink and then get on the call. You then get on the call. Are you feeling relaxed? Are you feeling tense? How are you feeling?
Yeah, still feeling rushed.
Yeah. And let me tell you, here in this house today, that also happened here, because we're in a different mode. We're on vacay mode. My little girl's on the sofa drawing on her iPad, doing all this artwork, and I didn't realise the time because my watch says UK time. My watching the clock in the kitchen is Malta time, and I think I was looking at my UK watch instead of figuring the Malta time. And then next thing I was like, oh, it's time, it's almost time for the call. And I was saying to myself while I was doing it, I was like, you need to get better at this. You need to get better at this. Even although Francis is on vacay, like you need to get better at that. This can't be the same next week because it's not a great energy to go into the call in. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that. Like completely understand it happened to me today. When I prepare myself better, when I look at the right clock, when I'm, not entertaining Francis all morning and out at the beach till late last night, then I don't feel as much, tension in my body 5 minutes before I start the call. That feels much nicer. But if this is, and only you know the answer to this, if this is like a behavior, like an ongoing behavior, is this something that happens quite often? Or is this something that's out of the ordinary that you're making your drink 5 minutes before your call starts? Do you find yourself rushing a lot before you start a call because you've got so many other things to do? It's not a slight on you at all. Like I'm imagining, you're a mum, you're a business owner, you've got lots of things on your to-do list to tick off. Do you find yourself rushing to do things a lot?
More than I would like to, yes.
So is that what you're being asked to look at here, as alongside the need to be perfect?
Yes, as well as I'm noticing another pattern of behavior is like it's challenging for me to admit that, like even to myself, that like, oh, this may be on me. The reason why I'm feeling rushed is because I didn't give myself enough time. But yet I tend to put it on somebody else. Oh, well, I'm rushing now because she's in my way. And
And
so
is
it's
that
like,
true? Is that true? You were rushing
no,
because she was in your way?
no, but these are kind of the stories that I convince myself. And you did nothing wrong here. You're great. You have your 5 minutes. Like you're great. But the reason why you're rushing now is because someone else is in your space. Someone else is in the kitchen, and so you're being slowed down. And so I then tend to kind of blame the other person, where really I'm being asked to look at myself. What am I doing here to be able to make this situation different next time?
So, and the reason why I'm asking you to do that is because you have got no control whatsoever over what happens in that world out there. You have none,
Right.
no control. Take that right off the table right now. You have no control over what happens out there. So, your daughter could be in the kitchen unloading the dishwasher. She could have brought 5 of her friends round and they're all standing there. And you've got
Right.
5 minutes and you've got to remove 6 girls out your kitchen. Right, you've got no, and by the way, I know probably your daughter wouldn't just bring 5 friends over unannounced, right? But this is, it's we're not talking about this, we're talking about a pattern of behavior that give yourself enough time and enough space for, regardless of what happens, you're okay. Regardless of what happens, you retain your power. Because what happens if, tell me, where does the power go? Where does your power that you carry within yourself, if you walk into the kitchen, see her standing there, immediately in your subconscious, your fight or flight kicks in because you're like, I'm not going to have enough time to make my drink that I've got to have before I got on my call. I'm already feeling tense because I've only gave myself 5 minutes. Your fight or flight clicks in. What did you choose? Fight or flight? What were you going to choose?
Right.
Right. I say this, I said it to my friend this morning. I woke up and chose violence this morning because I woke up kind of arguing with somebody in my head. And I was like, oh, I woke up and chose violence. And then I just had to journal on it and meditate on it and be like, oh, like, why am I doing that? Why am I arguing with this person in my head? And like just sift through the thoughts and get to the real problem, what was really going on. And so you would have, your fight or flight kicks in and you choose fight, right? And it's like, get out of my way. Where's your power? Where did it go?
I've just lost it.
Completely lost it. You gave it away. It's out in the ether. You're no longer in your body. You're not with God, right? You're not aligned with the higher energies. There's no joy. There's no peace flowing through you. There's no joy. There's no unconditional love and curiosity. There's none of these higher energies that we've always got access to until
Mhm.
you actually did connect with that and you came back into your body. even though it was really, really challenging for you, you come back into your body and you did the thing that your highest self was asking you to do. And look at what you created. You created peace in her body. You created joy in her body because she's being seen for doing this amazing thing. She's getting all the love and attention that she requires from her mum for, look at this thing you're doing for me. Thank you so much. You created that. You brought your power back. Now, the other thing that you gave away some of your power on is you didn't give yourself enough time. 5 minutes is not enough time for you to do the things that you need to do. If there's someone else in the kitchen, it's only enough time for you to do the things that you need to do if it's just you in the kitchen. The other people live in your house, yes.
Yes.
They're not always going to adhere to what you ask them to do, even although you might have created a life for yourself where they will, because they're your children. Sometimes they're not going to do it. Something might go wrong. Is it more beneficial to give yourself 10 minutes rather than 5? Yes, it is. It's nicer for
Yeah.
you, it's nicer for everybody around about you, and it's nicer for whoever you're going on a call with.
Right.
You're 100% responsible for everything that happens in your life and your perception of everything that happens in your life. As women, and I'm going to say this, it's not, this isn't a call just for women, but I am going to say this, as women, it's a bitter pill to swallow. Because we're like, oh, we're doing everything else as well, and now I've got to be responsible for everything that my perception. And also my hormones play a part in that, and my emotions, my energetic system of the female, of the feminine. Now you're asking me to take responsibility. You're 100% aligned with your own power when you take responsibility. You have the power, you had the power to change that situation, and you did. You could have made it even nicer for yourself by giving yourself 10 minutes instead of 5.
Mhm.
That's the thing I would be looking at. Because the first thing I said was, what were you afraid of? I was afraid I wasn't going to have enough time. Okay, but you're the only person that's in control of that bit. She's just in there unloading the dishwasher. Does she know your schedule? Does she know that you're going in there at 5 to and she's not to be in there? Do you want your children to live in a house where they have to vacate certain parts of the house 5 minutes before mom has a call, or she'll be speaking to them in an angry voice?
No.
How do you feel about the timekeeping part?
I mean, so now that you're saying that, it's a very different perspective, and I realized that what I was afraid of. I was afraid of having to look at my own actions and, ask myself, what have I done to create this situation? Whereas it felt easier and simpler to blame the other person. The reason why I'm rushing is because someone else is in the kitchen. Where my challenge is, stop looking at other people, look at yourself, and ask yourself, like, what am I doing that I can do differently to change this thing?
And the added layer of the challenge that you have on top of that is that you've created in your own mind a version of you that's perfect, and it's everyone out there that's causing the havoc, not you.
Right.
So you said the next step is to be the person who isn't perfect. Guess what? You're already her. Because you're not perfect at timekeeping by the sounds of it.
Right.
Agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
How do you feel when I say
think-
that? You're not perfect at timekeeping?
Yeah, I never put it that way. I assumed I am perfect. I give myself the ample amount of time, unless somebody gets in my way, or unless, I feel like I have it. Everything is very calculated to the minute. But if it's not, it's because of the other person, not because of me. I haven't done anything wrong here, which goes back to this, like, no, you're perfect at everything.
How's that working out?
Not very great.
Are you being asked to look at it?
100%. Yeah.
what does the God within you say about, and it'll come through as a sentence or a word or like a commandment or like just a full absolute. Like what does the God within you, what does he say about your ability to look at this part of yourself?
He says, focus on yourself. Look at yourself, don't look at others.
And how do you interpret that? Tell me how you're going to do that.
Well, first of all, stop myself when I notice I tend to put the blame or the responsibility on somebody else. Catch myself with that. Be like, no, this isn't the other person. What am I being asked to do here? What am I being asked to look at? And to change that narrative and sort of flip the story around to those other people aren't real. Like I'm the only person in this world. And so whatever they're doing isn't them. It's for me.
Do you have the capacity to do that?
Yes.
Will it be challenging?
Yeah. Because it goes back to, I feel like it's another thing. As you said before, it's like we have to do all these things. But I also know that the reward and the result from it is going to be so, so worth it.
Which goes back to the better communication and ways of expressing yourself to your children, to your spouse, to everyone in your life, which feels nicer, doesn't it? It feels, that's what you said, like when you expressed yourself in the presence, power, responsibility, you created this situation where your daughter felt really good. You created that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that you created that?
Yeah, that feels great.
You want more of that?
Yeah.
So the original challenge was my need to be perfect with things I do or say. So it's your need, your responsibility for everything. So your need, your requirement that you've created within your programming, your conditioning, your rule book for life. I need to be perfect in everything that I do or say. Everything that I do or say is perfect, and those people out there need to adhere to it so that I can keep up this pretense of being perfect. And it's a challenge I'm facing on my path.
Right.
The next
Which
step,
it's not about the other people, it's about me.
the next step is to be the person who isn't perfect. So your idea of perfection is yours. You created it. Do you think other people look at your idea of perfection and think it's not perfect?
Other people look at. Yes.
Look at you and think you're not perfect. Do you think your daughter thinks that you're perfect?
No.
Like absolutely perfect, 100% perfect. Do you think your daughter thinks that?
No.
I think she might pretend. She might pretend to herself. But she also, well, put it this way, do you think your mom is 100% perfect?
No.
Do you think your husband is 100% perfect?
No.
Have you ever met anyone that's 100% perfect? Apart from yourself?
No. I was going to say, apart from myself, of course. No.
So you're the only one. So just so we can be clear here, you're the only perfect person in the whole world.
Pretty much.
Right, okay. But you're still not enjoying it.
Right. So God created one perfect person in the world and then realized no more. We're done.
And
I know it sounds crazy when you think about it because nobody out there is perfect.
including you. And also this level of perfection that you've created for yourself in this avatar, you're not enjoying it because you're going in the kitchen and you're going, can you get out? Your natural programming instinct is to go, can you get out my way? That doesn't sound like someone that's enjoying our perfection. because I was
Right.
afraid I was going to be late. You walk into the land, and the situation of the land isn't perfect, and you go into a state of fear, then your power's out there. And it's a habitual pattern. Because if you're late once, if you're on time all the time, on time or 5 minutes early, and then you're late one time, all right, you're going to feel a certain amount of fear in your body, maybe because of old programming. But you know it's not your usual pattern of behavior. You're not going to get yourself massively upset about it. But if you're habitually late or habitually running just on time, just down to the wire, giving yourself just 5 minutes to do this thing, and all the parameters have got to be perfect when I do it, then you're programming your body into a state of tension.
Right.
Which one are you doing?
Right now, they want about a state of tension, but the one that I don't want to do is not that.
Which is what you're being asked to evolve and change. And you're
Mhm.
doing it. You are doing it. You're doing the things that's being asked of you. The next layer is always looking at the next thing that's more challenging, and that's your responsibility for your timekeeping, for the tension that you have around getting things done in a certain time, the tension that you carry in your body.
Mhm.
The story that you tell yourself is the usually generally the kind of nicest one. I don't, you know, I'm afraid to say this to her, like I'm battling with myself inside. Just do it. Just say it the normal way. Oh no, I need to say, I want to be able to express myself better. But actually what's happening is if you'd given yourself 10 minutes instead of 5, that battle wouldn't have happened inside of you.
Right.
So your body was already in a state of tension because you knew you only had 5 minutes to make the drink, got on the call.
Right.
Your lovely daughter just showed up as a wonderful 3-dimensional manifestation of how you were feeling inside, so that you could see this way of being within yourself. Isn't your
Mhm.
body absolutely amazing and full of wisdom and intelligence, and has created this situation so that you could see a pattern of behavior that plays out, that by the way is not
Yeah.
perfect. So isn't God amazing?
Yeah.
How do you feel
Yeah.
now?
And what a different perspective that is. Like, here I was thinking that my struggle or my challenge was something different than it actually is. So that was very, very helpful.
It's going to take more looking internally to understand that it's patterns and behaviours as well that are which is the chop wood and carry water, which is okay,
Mhm.
I've got to do a lot of things, so I need to look at, you know, what's my timing like on my things. If I've got too much on my plate, probably every woman I've ever met has. Okay, so what habits and behaviours, what patterns of behaviour do I need to change here? Also, I mean, another wonderful thing that could have happened is you could have been like, thank you so much for unloading the dishwasher. That is so kind. Do you know what would be really, really helpful as well? If you could make my drink for me. I'm just about to go on a call.
Mhm. I didn't even think of that.
Because you were tense. Because you were in a state of tension, because it was the first thing that I thought of. I thought, why didn't she ask her to make the drink for her and go and relax herself before the call?
Because then I have to teach her how to do it, what to put in, how to mix it. It's like, I don't have time for that.
Okay, so she doesn't know it's a complicated drink. Okay, then fair enough. But then also, if you had to teach her how to mix it and know what to put in, then that sounds like something that needs more than 5 minutes before a call.
Exactly. Right.
Right. Comes back
So
to
it's back to the
your
original
word,
point. If
your
I had more
responsibility.
time,
Yeah. Because if you had 10 minutes, you would have had time to tell her how to make it for you.
right. Right.
Okay, so I want you just to go away and meditate on that, like your part that you played in it across the board. By the way,
Mm.
huge, well done, huge, amazing being in the body, expressing the conversation the way that your highest self wanted you to do it, creating that place where she felt safe and seen and praised for what she was doing. And even in a rush, even tense, even in amongst all that, you still chose the higher path. So amazing, like really, really amazing. And now you're
Yeah.
just gonna have to look at other patterns of behavior that are showing up. Because your
Mhm.
body is so wise, so intelligent. God, the God within you, is so wise, so intelligent that it created this whole thing so that you could sit here on this call and me and you could sift through this information and then get to also that other thing that you've got to look at, which feels a bit more challenging because it's also, 100% your responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to end this quite abruptly, but I do have to wrap it up here because it is now 5:10. And I have another call straight after. So if you got everything that you need for some meditation in the coming days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And very helpful again to kind of change this perspective and think about it from a very different place. That feels a lot better.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming on and telling me your challenge and also being with me while we sift through it. Thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Okay, thank you. Okay, right, so we need to wrap up here. I've got another call after this. And what later transpired on this call, which I think is really important, that actually I just before this I came on this call, I was having a conversation with someone about authenticity and about how I would always want to be the same person I am here on this call as I am out in the world, because I want that alignment with my true self to be out throughout the whole world. And what's amazing to me and it just blows my mind how intelligent our bodies are and how wise our bodies are and full of wisdom, and the God within us is always giving us what we want, is that this wonderful lady come on and told us this story, and then I was able to tell part of my story, which was I was rushing to get on this call today because my schedule is not the same as what it has been, is what it usually is, because my daughter is here in Malta with me. She's off on school holidays. Sarah's over from Vancouver visiting, so things are different in the house. My schedule is different. The rituals that I have around my call are different. Everybody that comes to the calls knows that on a Wednesday morning I like to watch terrible movies, silly movies, and just relax my body and relax my brain before I get on the call. I didn't do that this morning. I was spending time with my daughter instead. I was doing other things that also required my attention. And much like the amazing lady that just came on and chatted, I come on the call a bit more tense than I usually am, a bit more rushed than I usually am, not as coherent as what I could be when I come on and I give myself more time, more space for relaxation. It's still learning for me. Like, I've only started doing these calls a couple of months ago. I've never done them in the school holidays before. I've never done them while being parenting 24/7 with my child before. And just a learning for me that I'm 100% responsible for everything that happens in my life, for everything, my perception of everything that happens in my life. And I take responsibility for not creating a schedule around today that enables me to relax enough that I don't feel an extra layer of tension before I come on this call. And what's just so amazing to me is that I said to someone this morning that I always want to be authentic, and then I was given this opportunity to tell you, everyone listening here, everyone on the call, this thing that happened literally 15 minutes before I got on this call. I'm kind of rushing about, and Sarah's helped me set up the call, and Frances is in the bedroom drawing on her iPad, and it's just mum life and school holidays and being on vacation and being somewhere different and still showing up every week for this call. This is the most authentic version of me, and I ask God to always make sure that I would be authentic, and then God gave me this opportunity by bringing on this lady for a hot seat. So that's how wise and intelligent our bodies are. We're always getting what we're asking for. We're always getting what we need. She needed someone to sift through the situation that happened with her daughter so that we could look at it from a whole host of different perspectives. so that she can go away and meditate on other things. What I needed from her, because we're always being placed on each other's path, was I needed her to come on so that I could actually show you, the listeners, a more authentic version of myself, because that's what I asked for this morning. So this is the divine intelligence of the energy that we carry within ourselves, and it blows my mind every single time something like this happens. So I'm super excited and happy that she and I just had that time to talk together, and I was able to tell that part of my story as well. I've had a really great time this week chatting to y'all. I am going to create a better schedule for next Wednesday, for when I will still have Francis here with me in Malta, and we'll still be on summer vacay, and I'll create a better schedule, and I will watch my silly movie in the morning and relax my body and be slightly less tense, hopefully when I come on next Wednesday. So I'll see you here again next Wednesday at the usual time. If you're watching this on catch up, you can register for next week's call below. Thank you for being here, and I will see you all soon. Have a great week.